How y'all doing this evening?
Good.
Good.
Excellent.
How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
And just to let you know, Sarah will not be joining us tonight. She had a conflict, so. Sarah Robinson.
Yes, I got a note.
Okay.
Olivia said she would not be joining us, but I see a screen for her. Are you with us, Olivia?
Hi, everyone. I was not available last month, but I'm here.
Okay, well, good.
Welcome, Olivia.
I think I'll call the meeting to order then. Unless there's any objections. I'll start by reading the required verbiage from the county. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20-A16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. Opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting will be posted on the www, etc. when available. Obviously, it's been done. Okay. We have a quorum. Okay, there's one more. Morning, Rob. Afternoon, Rob. Rob Neal has joined us. Okay, we do have a secretary. LJ is going to do it when he gets here, and Cameron's going to follow up with him to make sure he can access the recorded meeting. At this point, I want to go over the draft of the last meeting minutes that Stephanie was kind enough to do for us. And I have a few minor and a couple significant corrections, additions. In terms of people present, we sure have to have Cameron Lengill mentioned under the county staff. He's so small, we just don't know him at times, see him at times. These are the January 25th, 2021 minutes. They were approved by the committee members. Let's see. Down at the bottom, the Pantops substation fire and rescue fire truck has been ordered. Deliveries expected in the fall. Staffed only during the day, Monday through Friday. That was out. That was not mentioned at this point. Suggestions to have Chief Dan Eggleston attend, which he plans to do later this year. B, you could double check this for me. In the fiscal year 2022 budget, increase the salaries to $15 per hour effective July 1st for full and part-time workers. And I also thought that there's a 2% raise for all full-time employees on that date as well.
The two from, and Cameron, you can check me on this, but the 2%, my understanding is from the state. And then we are raising, we were going to do that last year when the pandemic hit, is to have a minimum wage of $15 an hour.
So to the two, I should not add the 2% then?
I'm not sure exactly where that funding is coming from, but all full-time employees are getting a 2% raise. I'm not sure if it's from state money or just our general budget funds, but yeah, it is correct to say that they're getting a 2% raise. So I could put that in there.
Okay, I will put it in there then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I thought it was from the state, not positive. There's a lot of things being discussed.
It actually wasn't clear at the meeting as far as if that was even going to get approved, so I didn't put it in. That's the reason why I didn't put it in, because it was unclear when the minutes, during the meeting.
Sure. No, that's understandable, right?
And the last thing I have is the Hampton Inn located on State Farm, not by State Farm. It's on State Farm Boulevard. So that's a point of clarification. Anyone else have any additional changes, corrections, or whatever? I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
A second.
Okay, thank you, Anjali and Cal. Okay, moving on. Just making sure I got everybody listed as they're coming in. Okay. Next topic is one that B wanted to make sure we had a good opportunity to discuss, and that's affordable housing policy. And B, I'll turn the meeting over to you at this point, if I may.
Okay, thank you very much. We just felt that it would be interesting and informative to this group for you all to hear a briefer version, right, Stacy, a version of the affordable housing plan that we are hoping to adopt. So with that, I have Dr. Pethia, who is here and who can also answer any questions and to give us a presentation. Take it away.
Thank you, Bea.
You're welcome.
And thank all of you for inviting me here tonight. It's, my favorite topic is housing policy, so I'm excited to talk some more about it. Give me 1 minute. Well, I should say my name is Stacy Pethia. I am the housing program manager for Albemarle County. I was the principal planner for housing, but switched departments. So I'm now located in the social services as opposed to community development, but my role is still the same. So I still do a lot of work with Cameron and all the other planners. And I will get a presentation started for all of you. Maybe. All these things keep popping up on my screen. There we go. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So as Bea mentioned, we are in the process of writing a proposal for new housing policy for Albemarle County. So that is what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'll give a really brief background on how we got to the stage that we are now. Then I will go over summarizing some of the recommendations that are included in the proposed policy, look at the implementation schedule, specifically the proposed priority actions, a really brief description of the next steps, and then when I'm finished, I will answer any questions any of you may have. This is just a timeline of how we got to where we are today. So our current affordable housing policy was adopted in 2004, and that became a Chapter 9 of the comprehensive plan. And the policy itself is included as an appendix to the current comp plan. In July 2019, the Planning Commission passed a resolution of intent to update the current housing policy. Since then, we held a series of community engagement events, and then I worked with a stakeholder committee that included 7 members from the represented different sectors of Albemarle community to draft the proposed policy. There have been a number of work sessions. There was one with the Planning Commission in August of last year. Then with the Board of Supervisors in October of 2020, they had a joint work session with both the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission in December. The policy was introduced to the public through a 2-week public comment period at the beginning of February of this year. We went back to the board to review those changes in March, and we are now scheduled for a public hearing with the Planning Commission next Tuesday. So the current policy really covers 5 categories. So promoting affordable housing, ensuring that the county has a wide variety and choice in housing types, and that they are open and available to everyone, no matter their race, gender, income, or age. Creating and preserving the housing that we have, that includes affordable and market rate housing. So making sure that everything is safe and good quality and located within sustainable neighborhoods. Really understanding the diverse housing needs of county residents, and particularly the special needs of different sectors of our population. So seniors, anyone with a disability, or people experiencing homelessness. And then the county does have a small housing fund, and we work with different grant opportunities. So making sure that whatever funding we provide to go towards affordable housing is really directed towards housing for the populations that are least able to find housing on their own. So in the spring of 2019, the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission released a housing needs assessment that covered housing needs throughout the entire region. And after reviewing all the data that was in there, staff approached the Planning Commission to update our current housing policy. And that recommendation was really based on 4 overall things that came out of that report from the planning district. One is that our population is going to continue growing, and it's currently projected to grow by about 27% over the next 20 years. So we will need to find housing and make sure we have appropriate housing stock for that increased population. The report itself showed that more than 10,000 households in the county, that's both renters and homeowners, are paying more than the recommended 30% of their household income towards housing costs. As well as our population growing, it's also projected to age. About 26% of the population in Albemarle County will be 65 years or over by 2040. So really looking at the housing needs of an aging population. And then looking at the needs of persons experiencing homelessness and differently able households. Both groups tend to need special housing needs. So whether those are accessible to wheelchairs or other assisted devices, or housing that comes with supportive services to help homeless individuals move into self-sufficiency. So looking at those types of things. And as I said, the Planning Commission did pass a resolution of intent in 2019 to allow staff to move forward with this process. So we did hold a series of community engagement sessions in 2019. There were 3 community meetings open to the public held in October of 2019. And then understanding that community meetings, as they are typically held, do not attract a great number of people, not a big diverse group crowd. So I worked with the nonprofits across our region to set up focus groups with specific populations. So I worked with JABA to meet with seniors that they work with. I met with representatives of the homeless population who spend their afternoons at the Haven. And I worked with several of the affordable housing providers to meet with their residents. There was also opportunities to provide feedback online. So all of the information that was provided during the community meetings in October was also posted on the website that the community could review, and there were opportunities to provide feedback through the website that way. So we heard a lot of information, but as you can see from the graphic on the right, housing and affordability were 2 of the biggest ones that we heard over and over and over again. But also that the county is really lacking accessible housing for seniors and persons with disabilities. I spoke with about 400 people. They also expressed a need to protect our existing older neighborhoods to make sure that they are preserved over the long term. Really a recognition of that we need to understand how affordable housing impacts everything else, whether that is economic development, education attainment among our young people, The people I spoke with felt that the county was really lacking a variety of housing types. Everybody seems to be building the same thing right now, so they would like to see different options, whether those are smaller cottage units, more rental housing opportunities, those types of things. And they really talked about the 4 main barriers that they saw to providing affordable housing in the county. And that was, and how we could address those moving forward. So we will now talk about the proposed policy and what's in that. It's written to support the county's vision and the current housing goals. So that has not changed. What it has done is expanded on the current policy. It includes 12 policy objectives and 39 recommended strategies. And I'm not going to talk about all of those because we would be here for a very long time and you would get bored. But they really fit into 7 categories. And so as you can see here, that's activities to increase the overall housing supply, increasing the supply of affordable and workforce housing, preserving our existing housing and communities, increasing opportunities for community engagement and housing issues in the county, really addressing fair housing and community equity throughout the county. Again, the housing needs for homeless and special populations, and then how we can fit all of this together to support sustainable communities. So I'm really going to focus on a couple of the key strategies that I think are really different from our current policy. The first is redefining affordable housing in the county and then introducing a new category of workforce housing. So currently all of our housing, whether it's for sale or for rent, is available to households with incomes at 80% AMI or less. Our current area median income is $93,700. That's decreased a little bit from last year, most likely due to the pandemic and a lot of people losing their jobs. And for a family of 4, that's around $74,000-ish per year. That puts them at the 80% AMI level. So with the new policy recommends redefining affordable housing so that when it's renter occupied housing, that those units would be available to households with incomes at 60% area median income or less. It redefines how we set the affordable rents for those units. Right now, they are based on the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's fair market rents. The policy recommends changing that to really attach that to the area median income itself. That way, when people's incomes increase or decrease, the rent will reflect those changes. For owner-occupied housing, those units would still be available to households at the 80% AMI category or less. And we would set the maximum for sale price at 65% of the federal home program 1 unit purchase price limit for existing housing. That's a really long title. But as of today, that maximum sale price would be under $200,000. Currently, we set the maximum sale price at $243,750. And that makes it difficult for a lot of home buyers in our region, particularly low and moderate income home buyers, to move into those units. So this, I think, will open the door to home ownership to a lot of different families that have not been able to reach it. To make up that gap between what's available to the affordable housing renter category and other people who would not otherwise be able to income qualify for those, we would create a workforce housing category. And that would provide rental housing to households with incomes between 60 and 100% AMI. And then the for sale units would go from 80 to 120% AMI. The recommended maximum rents would be slightly higher. And the maximum sale price would be set as of today at $215,000. Again, I think that will open the door to home ownership to a lot of families that have not been able to access it in our area so far. I think the last report I read was that the median home sale price in the county was $406,000. So it's really difficult for first-time home buyers to move into the home ownership market. Another key strategy that is proposed is for the county to adopt an affordable dwelling unit ordinance. This would work to replace the current proffer system for affordable housing. Through the proffer system, developers, the county asks that the developers proffer, so offer us 15% of the total units created under rezonings or special use permits as affordable housing. With an affordable dwelling unit or ordinance, that would become mandatory. So the developers would have to provide a percentage of affordable housing with rezonings and special use permits. The policy proposes increasing that percentage from 15 to 20%. It would also offer the developers the opportunity to provide a cash in lieu payment instead. And that cash in lieu payment amount would be something that the county would set as a standard level across all projects. An affordable dwelling unit ordinance would also provide the county the opportunity to add a first right of refusal. And that would allow the county, when a developer notifies us that they have affordable units that are ready for sale, the county could have the first right to say, yes, we want to buy some of those. And we could purchase up to 1/3 of those right off the bat. We could also write the ordinance so that at the back end, so we would have, the county could have the first right to purchase 1/3 of the affordable units that are available. They could be advertised to the public in an affordable price for, say, 90 days. And at the end of those 90 days, we could then open it up to nonprofits in the area to purchase another 1/3 of those units. That would help the county retain and make sure that those affordable units actually get purchased by income qualifying people. Right now, we have a really difficult time getting profit for sale units purchased and as affordable units. They tend to be advertised for 60 to 90 days, and then developers have struggled to find buyers for them, so then they are able to sell them at a market rate. And finally, an affordable dwelling unit ordinance would allow the county to set affordability periods and control the resale price. So we can make sure that those units that are purchased are retained as affordable over a longer term. Some of the key strategies for preserving existing housing in communities. One of those is to encourage owners of naturally occurring affordable housing, or what housing people like to call NOAHs. And those are rental units that are renting as affordable or below market rates simply because they are not new enough or are high quality enough to attract market rate renters. But they are really the units that are ripe for investors to come in and purchase, rehab those and bring them offline as affordable and turn them around as market rate, and we lose that stock. So really working with owners that manage these NOAH units to preserve some of those units as affordable housing over the long term while they rehab the rest of the units and make them available at a higher price. Looking at the feasibility of identifying rental inspection districts, and these would be specific neighborhoods that are selected based on a number of different housing data points that the state has identified. Most of that is really looking at the quality of the rental housing in the area, looking at complaint records. So have there been a lot of calls about zoning violations? And so looking at those, identifying those neighborhoods, specifying them as rental inspection districts, and then working with the developers to inspect those units once a year to make sure that they are in good quality. The programs can be designed in such a way to work with the owner. So if they rent to housing choice voucher clients, those units get inspected annually anyway. The federal government requires that. So we could exempt those from an annual inspection through this. So it's really working with the owners to figure out how to do this properly. But then this way, it really helps keep neighborhoods from falling into physical decline and keeping those good quality rental housing for affordable families. Another is tracking neighborhood change indicators. And that would allow the county to identify areas that we could focus investment in. And so if neighborhoods seem to be falling into decline, really catch that at the early stages and provide funding to homeowners for housing rehab projects, working with CDBG grants to do some community improvements, maybe fixing sidewalks. But also we could look at the other end. If the prices seem to be increasing rapidly, which would place lower income homeowners at risk of being priced out of their neighborhoods, then we could help them find ways to stay within the neighborhood over the longer term. In terms of fair housing and community equity, there are two tools really that the policy proposes the county use. One is an equity evaluation tool, and this provides a process for evaluating the impact of policies, programs, different initiatives and funding streams on how they support or inhibit racial equity throughout our communities. And it really helps protect against unintentional discriminatory impact. A lot of times what sounds like a good policy, it looks really good on paper, we can't think of everything. So occasionally you'll find that a policy has an unintended consequence that really harms racial or ethnic or age-related classes. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And another tool is an affordable housing impact statement. These are really similar to environmental or economic impact statements that developers provide for their projects. And it's really measuring the impact of a proposed development or an ordinance or policy on the affordable housing stock. It's really just to track how well the county is creating additional affordable housing or making sure that we don't lose that stock. We would not be able to use this tool to deny a rezoning or a special use permit to a developer, but it's really for our purposes to measure that and bring awareness to the problem. And the tool is not widespread in use, but it has been implemented in Atlanta, Georgia, and New Orleans and San Diego, and the city of Pittsburgh is recently considering implementing that in their city as well. So that's really some of the big changes from our current policy. In terms of implementation, the policy proposes over the first 6 years that the 6 strategies here and on the screen are carried out. So the first is exploring options with county-owned land to develop a permanent affordable housing community. And this would most likely be geared towards teachers, firefighters, police officers who can't afford to live in the county but would like to. Second strategy is providing incentives to increase the production of affordable housing. So this is working with developers to identify different incentives the county could provide to support the development of affordable housing. Affordable units don't cost any less to build than market rate units do. So it's difficult for developers to provide them on a large scale. So really the incentives could include increased density. It could be looking at waiving some of their fees or expedited permitting. So there's a number of different incentives the county could provide, and it'd be studying those to see which would be most helpful. Developing again the affordable dwelling unit ordinance structure and guidelines and getting that adopted. Developing and implementing a sustainable housing trust fund. Establishing a standing housing advisory committee, and that will increase opportunities for community members to be involved with housing. And the last one is working with local nonprofits to build additional permanent supportive housing units for homeless individuals. And this one is actually, I'm happy to say, in progress. So we should have some of those soon. The policy also proposes a number of metrics to track progress towards meeting the objectives in the housing policy. These are really, the ones here on the screen are really overall and high level numbers as programs and policies are developed and implemented after the policy has been adopted. There would be additional metrics the county would track. And as we do so, these would all be public and placed on the website so that the community itself can see our progress. And so next steps, as I said, there's a public hearing at the Planning Commission scheduled for next Tuesday. And then if all goes well then, and the Planning Commission recommends approval, then there will be a public hearing with the Board of Supervisors on June 16th, during which they will consider adoption of the proposed policy. And I know that was a big overview and kind of a whirlwind discussion, but I am happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Stacy, could you back up 2 slides? I was reading across and only got halfway across. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stacy, are you able to forward, send everybody this?
Yes,
Maybe
ma'am.
to all of our members here? Would that be something everyone would like? To get the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed you did say that if there was a proffer that came up, or we have to make 20% of development affordable housing, then if that doesn't sell in 90 days, then the county could purchase 1/3 of those units. And then after another 90 days, then they would be eligible to those same units, or 1/3 of the third would be available to the nonprofits.
So it would be before they are advertised as affordable, the county would have the opportunity to purchase 1/3 of those initial units. Then the remaining 2/3 would be advertised as affordable housing to the general public for 90 days. At the end of those 90 days, a nonprofit could have the opportunity to purchase 1/3 of that remain. So we would end up essentially, hopefully, with 2/3 of the total units as affordable housing. Does that make sense?
The county would end up with, or the overall would be 2/3 of the affordable housing would be in somebody else's hands, not the developers.
Correct.
Okay, because right now, the developers after 90 days can sell them at a market rate.
Correct.
And why would the county, let's say the 1/3 of those units were to sell right away to people wanting an affordable unit, then why would the county buy those if there is a waiting list and people want to buy those first?
Right. So we don't have a waiting list at the moment.
Right, I know.
Which is something I would like to work on. So hopefully, ideally, the county would have a waiting list of people ready to purchase affordable units. And we would not have to worry about that first option. And then we would have people that could potentially move into all 15, 20% of the units immediately. If that did not happen and we got to that 90-day period, then opening it up to nonprofits to purchase those would be really helpful.
Okay, but the county would not have to purchase them in the first 90 days. Is that correct? I mean, why wouldn't we see who can purchase them? Okay.
Yeah. That's just something we would have the option and we could say no.
Okay.
There's also the opportunity that we could say we designate an entity to act on our behalf. So we could put out an RFP to the nonprofits to say for, the next 3 years, you're going to be our designated purchaser and you have the first right to buy those. So
Okay.
yeah, many ways we can set that up.
And the only other thing I know, I know you're talking about an affordable housing committee,
Yes.
but it seems to me that that would only prolong the process of a development. Could that not be handled in-house? Could we not have kind of a do's and don'ts? Because I'm worried about, with developers, the longer you prolong the process, the more it costs them. Then then they have to have more housing, they have to have denser housing in order to make up for the price, because the process has gone on so long.
So the Housing Advisory Committee that's proposed would not have anything to do with developments. They would really be looking at the policy overall and making sure, tracking progress on the policy, really looking at evaluating how the policy and the programs are working to support affordable housing production. So they would not actually be involved with the development side at all.
So basically, they're the bean counters of the affordable housing.
Yes,
So-
ma'am.
So many sold, so many didn't sell.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do that? We need a committee for that?
It's really the opportunity to provide a perspective from the community level. So we would be working with the Office of Equity and Inclusion to make sure that the committee members include members of our community that are not typically represented and whose voices aren't typically heard. So they would be
Okay.
the recipients of affordable housing, and so providing their perspective.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. You said there's not a group of people waiting to or available to purchase these housing. What is the requirements, or why isn't there a group of people are looking for affordable housing? What do you know what the criteria is to be on that list?
Well, so the county used to have what we called home buyer clubs. And we had a certified housing counselor, home ownership counselor, sorry, here on staff. Unfortunately, when the Great Recession hit, that staff person was cut. And so we no longer have anyone qualified to provide home ownership counseling. Which is why we no longer have a waiting list. So we work with nonprofits, particularly Piedmont Housing Alliance. But from my understanding is that the potential home buyers that they have been working with, their incomes are not high enough for them to afford the $243,000 sale price that we set in the county. And many of them have a lot of credit issues and other issues that they're working through. So it takes them a while to reach the point that they even can become homeowners.
Yeah.
So I have been examining ways that we could create a list of potential home buyers, a waiting list for that. I just don't have the details yet. So that is hopefully in the future. Because what I would like to do is when a developer notifies us that they have affordable units for sale, then we can send a notice out to everyone on the waiting list with the information on the home and where it's located, the amenities that are there, and direct them to the developers to discuss purchase.
And I'm going to piggyback on Brian's question because I thought that was a good one. The reason why we're looking at this again as the county is because in 10 years, we've sold 44 units. Not a real good track record, but I do have a question for Stacy. Did the homeowner advisory person, staff person, was that a successful program when we did have that person? Was that successful?
I don't know. I would have to get back and look. I was not here then.
Okay.
And that position ended in 2011. So I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind of to answer your question, B, back in those days, just watching that program, it was the critical key to making the program somewhat successful, and that's the educational process. And any of us who have tried to buy a home at whatever price, the devil is in the details. And if you are not aware of all of the details that are needed in preparing to try to buy a house, you're darned to fail. In many cases, my heart goes out to the housing department. If you don't have that, it was a very aggressive program that had programs available during the day, at night, so on and so forth, and followed people through. And from what I understand at that particular time, that was the key to making the program as successful as it was. However small that was, but at least they're darned to failure if you don't have the education.
Wouldn't it be nice if the banks all had a loan officer that maybe specialized in affordable housing? They knew where the units were when someone comes in that is looking for an affordable housing unit. I mean, let's face it, everyone here, all of us here, we know what to do. We go into a bank, we get a loan, boom, boom, boom. Like Hal said, not everybody knows what to do. But wouldn't that be nice if the banks would have someone that could help people through the process?
Yeah.
If I could offer some additional insight. This is LJ Lopez. Sorry to be late and have missed a few of the most recent meetings. On the affordable housing, I think the county's policy, it's affordable housing to 80% of AMI, which yields a certain price point, available for 90 days, and then it can be sold to the market rate community and not designated affordable. I think the policy is well intentioned, but it takes it only to a certain point. And what you all were discussing is the critical piece that I think is missing in that policy. And so what do I mean by that is, I mean, it's hard enough to just create the unit, but that's not in and of itself, right? There's more to it. You have to find a buyer who wants it. Then you have to find a buyer who can qualify for it. Then you have to find a buyer who can then close on it. And those are not easy things to do. And they're also not without time and an investment of time. And so all that legwork on the front end with a housing counselor and a waiting list really makes that happen, because even in a best case scenario, identifying the unit and qualifying for it and closing on it in 90 days is not necessarily the easiest thing to do, particularly if you're at that end of the financial spectrum and purchasing maybe the first home and qualifying for it. It takes some time. And so that education piece is critically important to making that happen. The piece where I think there are pitfalls I've created the units. And so from the perspective of why did the development community, the home building community advocate for the 90-day time window, is because, again, the production of the unit, there's a lot that goes into it. Acquisition of land, zoning, entitlements, site plan approval, construction, and then actually building the home. But what do we hear in real estate? Location, location, location. You have to find the one buyer who wants that unit in that location, regardless of whether it's affordable or not, right? And so, and it's also priced at a price point of the maximum of 80% of AMI. And so your total market availability, the depth of that market. So you're targeting, if you're at 81% of AMI, you don't qualify. And if you're at 79% of AMI, you can't afford it. You wouldn't be underwritten because you don't have the financial assets. So when you take all the population of Charlottesville and you narrow it down to 80% of AMI, 79.5 to 89 or 80% of AMI, you have X number of people. And then X number of people have to be looking for a house, have to want that house in its type and quality and construction, and want that house in that location. And so it's just a very narrow band of whom we're serving under very tight timelines. If they don't have the education and the momentum and the notice of that unit coming online and really working with that housing counselor, it's an anomaly to find somebody who fits all of those criteria and says yes, and then can purchase it in the 90-day window. The 90-day window expires, and then someone who's 81 or 85 or 90 or 110% of AMI can then purchase because they qualify for it. And so it's not a perfect policy by any stretch, but it does, by requirement, create the affordability. I think there's the education piece, the waiting list to get the buyer awareness to get them qualified. So anyway, just my perspective, the background on those units.
If I might jump in. Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Arsali. I'm the new one here. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the meeting last week. So this is really interesting to me, and I think the right of first refusal component is great. But the question is, a couple questions I had with that were, one, why aren't we doing 100%? And two, will the county have the funding for that? Because to the extent, I think that solves a lot of these problems we're talking about with that 90-day window, et cetera, and the developers' issues. If the developer's agreeing with it, the county can come in and pay whatever that affordable price is. Then the county has the option to go in and rent it at an affordable price, sell it at an affordable price, or work with a nonprofit and partner with it to get it out. So these are truly affordable units. So that seems to be a really great potential avenue as long as we can do that. But I think a big part of it is either we need a nonprofit with deep pockets who can jump in and assist us, or the county has to put together a fund to buy up these units. So that was my question, is more with the funding and also why are we doing the one third idea versus kind of bringing it all into the county's fold and having or the nonprofits fold and making them responsible.
I can answer that. Well, we don't have the money to do that. Yeah. That would also take away from other things and other projects that we want to do. We are looking into having, and we do have an affordable housing trust fund. Some people would like it to be permanent, like you can't touch that money. I will tell you, I'm not in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. Because if there's a natural disaster that hits Albemarle County and we need that money, I want to be able to access that money, for the health and benefit welfare of the citizens. But we are looking at having an affordable house, and we do have an affordable housing trust fund. I don't know how much is in there. Maybe Stacy knows. But we are putting monies in there as we can, which is why you hear the 1/3. I'm hoping that more so that nonprofits will actually step up and come in and buy those units. I don't know, maybe other organizations or something, but it's all a question of money, and that's why.
What?
Guys, this is Rob. I'll try to be quick. First, great presentation. And it's, a program with a lot of, warrants, it's a great thing. Trying to throw just a couple financial things out there is I'm not sure how the affordability and the AMI is calculated as interest rates for loans evolve. So if we had you said 243,000 based on the AMI a while ago, taken down to 191. Well, right now, the average interest rate is 3%, and that could easily go to 6% in a few years. So that's on to make it easy, on $200,000 purchase. Then if your financing cost doubles, then that's $500 a month for a 3% increase in interest rate. So that like 191 or 200 or 243, somehow the program needs to address that, because that, to LJ's point, the qualifying demographic changes literally week by week based on interest rates. This, really interesting time. So that has to be factored in. The other thing is, from a stakeholder of the county, I'm wondering, kind of unintended consequences. Again, I think this is a great and needed program, but have you consulted with the real estate assessors for the manipulation of market rates of a lot of units coming on? Technically, that would make them need to lower the real estate assessments of other properties to make it equitable. Therefore, the county is going to have less revenue coming in. So I'm always fearful of the county expanding programs at the same time reducing the tax base. So how are we going to pay for this? And there's one other item I was going to say, but it's such a great program, but there are financial factors that we have to factor in. The last thing is nonprofits. So again, if the nonprofits purchase their third, if, to LJ's point, if we want these to get into families' hands, but they can't get it done in 90 days, it's hard enough for me to do my mortgage in 90 days. So how can they?
Yeah.
The county buys a third and then nonprofits buy a third. Well, that's awesome. We're bringing in people that work at the university and the county coming into our, live in our locality, and they're bringing their families in, using the schools, using the resources. But if a nonprofit owns that house, nobody's paying taxes in that house. So again, there's such a great program, but there are 3 financial catastrophes that I can think of based on the good intentions we're trying to do. So I just want to play devil's advocate. Great program, but you got to think about the other side of the impact. So thank you.
I'm just going to mention, Rob, I thought that was very interesting. And if the county holds on to those properties, or if the nonprofit holds on to those properties, correct me if I'm wrong, either Rob or LJ or Anthony, but that's costing them money, correct? In other words, if they don't have buyers for those properties, is that not costing them money?
Well, I mean, if the county wants to tax itself, if a nonprofit buys it, nobody's paying taxes on that dwelling. So if a nonprofit buys it and they can, they could hold it themselves and allow people to live there, or allow those people to pay them, kind of a rent, but that is not taxed. So again, if someone's moving from Greene County into Albemarle County with 2 kids in public schools and uses resources, we are bringing a family into the county using the county's resources that we use our proffers to purchase that property, and we're not getting any tax revenue, instead of a workforce type situation where a family that was living there would pay their fair share of real estate taxes to help everybody. I mean, I'm not trying, I won't say like everybody, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you got to think it all the way through. The amount of nonprofits in this community is so awesome, but it's also a problem that the majority, the percentage of land and properties owned by nonprofits, it really reduces our tax base as a community.
No, I understand that. It begs the question, and then Brian has a question, but it begs the question of, we really do need, Stacy, we really do need a list of people ready to buy these homes.
Yeah, I mean, this program is great if it can get into the end consumer's hands. Like, that would be awesome, to Brian's.
Right, because if nobody buys these homes from the county or from nonprofits, excuse my expression, but we're screwed. And so, we really do need to have somehow help people and have a list. And then Brian had a question. Sorry, Brian.
And Stephanie had a question too, but I do want to say the only nonprofit in Charlottesville that does not pay property tax is Habitat for Humanity, because they are considered a charitable organization. All other nonprofits have to pay property taxes.
Okay.
So that part, we're good on that part. And Brian, I do want to get your question, but Stephanie's had her hand up for a bit, so.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Stacy and everybody, and a great presentation too as well. Very, very informative. But I just had a question. We're kind of talking about what Rob talked about too, as far as having that list, and B talked about having the list of people. Because I think that's important, because there are some people that may have credit issues, not be able to get a loan, not be able to handle the mortgage payment when they really realize what other expenses they have, et cetera. And you don't want to be in the business of trying to figure out loans and figure out credit and figure out credit scores, et cetera. So there has to be a process set up ahead of time so that the list is there and good. And I'm not sure if that would be the county's responsibility, I guess, as far as that process development, or who would be responsible for that piece.
Well, it used to be the county when we had a home buyer club, because we did, my understanding is we had a certified housing counselor, home buyer counselor on staff. In order to do all of that education, you need to have HUD certification as a home buyer counselor. So we don't have that. I'm not certified to do that. And then that would really bring the class, as I think Cal was talking about, the program really ran. They would bring, a dozen people in at a time, and they would hold a series of courses and really walk them through that process. And so that they were ready to go when those proffer units came online.
Right. Yeah. So that sounds reasonable, but then how much do we have the resources within the county to support that program again?
That I don't know. I'm going to say not at the moment.
Right, because I think that would be crucial for the success of this to happen, would be to have the list readily available and to be able to get that done first. So we have a good list that we've already been through the whole process and is vetted and complete, and then, it could smoothly go ahead versus trying to do it on the back end, basically.
I agree with that.
So do I.
Brian.
So Stacy, that was going to be my question. So with Habitat for Humanity, I'm not exactly sure how all the details of that program, but don't they have to have a program similar to this where you have to go through some training and put some sweat equity and things in before you can get a house? How successful have they been, and have we partnered with them or anything like that?
We partner with them in terms of providing funding for their various home building projects. They have their own waiting list of families that are interested in their program. So they operate their own waiting list. I'm not sure they have the capacity to expand to help additional people. Piedmont Housing Alliance does home buyer counseling. And I'm not sure of their capacity there. So I think it's a capacity issue on many different levels, not just the counties. So it's something that I do want to look into. But I wanted to make sure that we get a housing policy in place and figure out what that policy is going to be, and then move forward with different options.
So would their waiting list not qualify to be eligible for our affordable housing, or is there a separate criteria for what their waiting list entails versus what our waiting list would entail?
Yes, theirs is very separate, and they really work with their program really focuses on very low income households. So even with incomes as low as 25% of area median income. And they're able to do that because they originate their own mortgages in-house, and they base that mortgage on the family's income. So if they are only earning, say, $20,000 a year, their mortgage payment will be 30% of their income. And then Habitat can, they will do like a soft second mortgage to subsidize that purchase. So they have a very specific program that they work with.
And the owner who's going to purchase these homes, Brian, they also have to give X number of hours helping to build their own house or in some other way, but they have to contribute a lot of hours before they can even do this. That's part of the deal.
So I've lost track of whose hands were up. Dick, did you have a question? And then I'll go Olivia and then LJ.
seems to me that some of the issues that you've raised are ones that Habitat has dealt with and does deal with. And it would seem to me that sitting down with the people there would answer some of the questions that have come up today and maybe give you a roadmap in terms of what your policy has to be to deal with a different waiting list, a different household target, AMI or whatever. But I mean, it seems to me the mechanics that they've worked out would be helpful to learn about from the county standpoint.
Agreed. Olivia.
Hi. I just wanted to say that the 70% of the Albemarle County police live outside of Albemarle County. And is there a effort to help our county police find these homes that would be available to them? Thank you.
Not yet, but that is something I would like to reach out to. I know that there's going to be different ways to do that, and I haven't found the best one yet. But really, it was trying to figure out, understanding what needed to happen housing-wise in the county, which was really started in 2019. And we got this proposed policy, which is where we're now. And then after that, we can start moving forward with all these things. But you're right. I think it's really important to make sure that our police officers can live here if they want to, our firefighters can live here if they want to, our teachers. And that's a high priority for me.
And that's something that as a supervisor, I would like to see very much because of climate resilience. If there's a disaster in Albemarle County, be it flooding or whatever natural disasters, you want your firefighters living in the county, you want your police officers living in the county, those people that will be able to help us. You don't want them coming from other counties. So that's actually part of our, hopefully part of our workforce plan. So now I'll shut up.
All right, Ron, let me get LJ and then Anthony and then you. I got to write that down before I lose track again.
Go ahead, Ron.
Oh, I thought I was last. If the county adopted an ordinance to require units, what would the advantages and disadvantages of that be? I'm wondering.
So right now, developers do not need to proffer affordable units. It is highly suggested and desired, but they do not have to. So if they do not proffer affordable units through rezoning, then we just, if the project is approvable, then we can't say, no, you need to give us the housing. By making that mandatory, then they can't come back and say, no, we don't want to build housing. You have to, or you pay us money into a fund. And so we're going to get affordable units one way or the other, basically. That's the advantage.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if it's adopted, whether development might slow down or legal lawsuits may ensue or.
No, so this is enabled under state, the Virginia State Code. So we're on good legal ground. There was a developer on the stakeholder committee that helped create these proposed strategies and objectives. So she did say that if the developer wants to build somewhere, that they'll find a way to do it. So she gave her thumbs up.
Good.
LJ?
Well, thank you, Stacy. We've had a very good discussion, a very good presentation, and I think all of us look forward to having a copy of your presentation. There's quite a bit to absorb. So I'd like to move on to Cameron, the Community Development Department update. Cameron, can you give us a quick one too, please?
Thanks, Dick. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to give you an update on the status of some projects in Pantops. I've got a list here. I'm going to start with the Wawa. if you've probably noticed, if you've driven by there, it's nearing completion. It could be as early as this week where they pass all of their inspections and technically they could open. It will definitely be open by the time of our May meeting. But after we issue them their certificate of occupancy to actually occupy the building, they may take a few days or even a week or two to get all their inventory in place and all of that. But it is nearing completion. The hotel at the back of that site still has some work to do with like their building inspections as well as their site inspections. So the opening of the hotel is going to be a little longer. I don't have an exact date for you on that, but the Wawa is nearing completion. Next, I will say the Overlook Hotel, which is that proposed rezoning that we had the community meeting for back in January, was resubmitted. And it's under review with staff. And our review comments are going to go out by May 7th. I haven't taken a look at that plan, but if you have specific questions for it, you can send me an email and I can get you some answers. The Hampton Inn on State Farm Boulevard is also still under review. It hasn't been approved yet, but our comments are due out by May 10th on that project. And then in terms of new projects, we received a major site plan amendment application for the Pantops shopping center. And there's actually a new car wash that they're proposing at the very back of the site. So if you all know where the gazebo area is at the back corner, it's near where the Little Caesars used to be and the Enterprise Rent-A-Car. There's a flat grassed area behind a sidewalk. And what this site plan amendment is proposing to do is to build some new parking in that flat grassed area and then construct a car wash building that is pretty small. The site plan says it's only 1,100 square feet, which for reference, the other Clean Machine car wash that's at the corner of Riverbend and 250 actually measures about 6,200 square feet. So it's not a big building they're proposing, but that is under review with staff. We received that after our last March meeting. So we haven't actually issued any comments on that yet, but comments will be due by May 17th. And then looks like the last thing is Malloy Ford. I know you all have probably driven by there and seen that they're doing some demolition at the front of the main building where they used to have their showrooms. And we've received a site plan amendment that is showing that part of the building actually be rebuilt with a modern new facade. And then at the, I guess I should say, the west side of the parcel, there's a smaller standalone building right now, and they're proposing to build another smaller standalone building right next to that that measures about 4,500 square feet. And then the plan does show the existing parking area in certain places, not across the whole parcel, but they're going to be resurfacing it because it's in need of some repairs right now. But that is what is proposed with that site plan. That's under review of staff as well. We haven't approved it yet. And then finally,
And
my last
what is
thing
that going to be? What is it? So is it going to be a car dealership still, or what is it going to be once they do those changes?
Yeah, so the parcels, the Malloy Ford site is actually two separate tax map parcels. And there's an approved special use permit specifically for an auto dealership on that property. So my understanding is that the new building will be occupied by some sort of auto dealership. I don't know which one. I can check back with the lead planner to see if he has any knowledge, but there wasn't like, a specific manufacturer name listed on the site plan. It was just this site plan amendment. So the last thing I want to mention really quick was the Rivanna River Corridor Plan. The TJPDC has actually completed a draft plan for that, and that is available on their website. There's still the ability to make some public comment on that plan. There's actually a portal that you can type any thoughts or comments in on the TJPDC page for the project. And so right now, the overall scope, we're still in what we were calling phase 2. And the end goal of phase 2 is to come up with this draft plan. The overall outcome may be that the plan gets adopted by the county and or the city or portions of the plan may get adopted by the county or the city. But that was scheduled to be what occurs in phase 3, which still hasn't happened yet. I believe what's going on is the TJPDC wanted to publish this document and get it out there for the public to see in case anyone has any comments and there needs to be, any certain changes to it. So if anyone would like a link to that page, please send me an email and I can get it to you. The plan is a PDF that you can click and view. You can actually download it to your computer if you want.
Cameron, I didn't catch the name of it. What project is this?
The Rivanna River Corridor Plan, which was that joint project between the city and the county. The TJPDC has been managing it. It's been going on for a couple of years now, at least, probably actually since 2018. There have been some staffing turnover at TJPDC, so it's taken a little bit longer to get it to this point right now. But according to the official timeline, it's only about 3 months behind. And one thing I may do, I'll speak with B and Dick and we can talk about this, but try and get David Benish, who is my colleague with the Community Development Department, who has been managing the county's role on that project. I can get him to come out either to our May, potentially our June meeting, if you all would like to hear more information about that corridor plan. And so that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions about any of these projects?
Yeah.
I see Ron, you've got one.
Is that pedestrian bridge, is that part of that river project?
Yes.
Boom.
Yes, the pedestrian bridge, it is part of the project, but it has sort of a life of its own as well, with VDOT in the county. So the corridor plan is taking that into account, that there should be a bridge crossing, but the county actually finished a study and analysis of the feasibility of doing a crossing back in December, I believe. And VDOT has said that that is a worthy project that could receive state funding. So regardless of what happens with the corridor plan, it looks like there will be some sort of project, maybe a smart scale thing, but a project to get a bridge built. Again, that can be something we get more details on if I do have people come out to a future CAC meeting.
Any other questions for Cameron?
Cameron, just one other quick question. I think you mentioned before the meeting, we were talking a little bit about this. Them coming, somebody from the Rivanna River Corridor Project coming to talk to us about their plans at some point, so we could also find out in more detail what's going on. Could that be a possibility?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, B.
Yeah, that would be David Benish, and we actually met yesterday. We had our meeting yesterday. So Cameron, would it be too much trouble just to send everybody that PDF?
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I can.
Would that be all right, everyone? Okay, we'll just send it out to everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
B, do you want to talk briefly about the membership status for the next fiscal year?
Yes, so I have the list. Louis Lopez, unfortunately, you're ineligible. It's a 3-term limit. Rob Neal, ineligible, 3-term limit. I don't like this. Olivia Branch, a reappointment application submitted, but is ineligible due to 3-term limit. Cal Morris, you're okay. Sarah Robinson is okay. Larry Brown is not reapplying. I understand. Michael Spatz, a reappointment application received. Ida Lee Wooten, reappointment application received. Stephanie Lowenhout, a reappointment application received. So, and also, let's see, the following Pantops CAC members' terms expired June 30th, 2022. Richard Hiss, last term, ineligible after 2022. Ron Brownfield, Anthony Arsali, and Brian Mason. So your term expires in June of 30th of 2022, but you're all eligible for a reappointment, except for Dick.
B, for clarity, even if someone twists my arm to do this again, I can't do it.
But who's talking?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
LJ.
I didn't see. Okay, you were too far back. Yes.
Sorry about that. So just for clarity, even if someone twists my arm to do this again, I can't do it.
We appreciate what you've done for us so far, LJ. So
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. We really. Okay, let's draft Louis Lopez. We'll make you
Well, no,
attend.
I'm ineligible. So even if
Oh.
someone twists my arm, it wouldn't matter.
Well, I tell you what, that's going to be sad because I've really, I'm enjoying working with everybody. So you can all if you know someone who you think would be a good replacement, because I personally think we've got a really good CAC going here. So suggestions would be encourage other people. Thank you.
Right. Yes.
That's all.
Any old business? Or new business?
I have a question. So is June our last meeting, or do we not join after May?
I think your term expires June 30th of 2021. So you would still come for May and you would still come for June, because I think our meeting in June will be
Fourth Monday, normally.
June 28th. So you've got everyone, you all have 2 more meetings, even those that are ineligible. We have 2 more meetings. So good. Very good.
I think Rob Neal should be elected CAC member emeritus, and then he can continue on forever.
I appreciate that, LJ. That's really nice of you.
Ted, doesn't bother me.
I don't hear any seconds on that though, so I'll take that.
Okay, our next meeting is May 24th at 6:15. Thank you all for.
Oh, didn't Louis and Brian and maybe Anthony, didn't they have questions for Stacy? Since we still have a little time, couple minutes? No?
Yeah, I just had this one comment, but LJ, if you want to go ahead, I think you were.
No, happy to carry over to the next meeting and end everyone's evening at 7:31.
Yeah, that I'm good with. We can talk about it later.
Because we normally go till 8.
Well, I'll just make a quick comment then. This is my first meeting, so I'll get a second word in. Just a quick comment regarding the cost issue, and I really am encouraged, I just find that, so as a matter of background, I'm a real estate attorney. I've done land use work, and I haven't done too much in Albemarle County, but I've done it in Florida, and affordable housing is a big thing there as well. But they don't have that right of first refusal idea, and I think that's a really clever idea. And I just want to make the most of that if possible. And because in essence, what you're doing is you're potentially purchasing these properties under market value if the county has the right to do that. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a good investment for the county to do that. And I don't think it's a great idea for the county to go flip those properties. I don't think that's the whole point of it. But the idea would be either if you rent the house at affordable housing, you're going to make up whatever costs you have, or if you're giving folks more time than 90 days, which is kind of artificial, to try to find a buyer. And you hopefully, if you have a good enough system there, you're kind of churning these where the county doesn't have to have that much invested in this to make this really work well. And I'm just really, like I said, I really like that idea. And to the extent it's feasible, I think that really solves a lot of things as long as it's done well. I mean, obviously, if the county's stuck with a bunch of properties, it could be a headache, but I think it can be done well and it can be done pretty efficiently. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. I do want to say I sent a copy of the presentation to Cameron, so you can forward that on. And I also attached a copy of the most recent updated proposed housing policy if anyone is interested in looking at that. And feel free to email any questions to me that you may have. Cameron, if you can stick my email in that, in the email you send out, and I'm happy to answer any questions anytime. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your efforts and for trying to push this forward. We greatly appreciate it. It needs to be done, and I'm glad things are moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, another 4 weeks, I guess.
Very good. Well done, Dick.
Okay, thanks, Cal.
Wow.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.